Yo, what is up, guys? Your boy Grinch here. Today we'll be talking about tonight I told you guys I'd be doing a Veterans Day special, and I would I wouldn't tell you in the other video, and I was gonna tell you here to tune into this one. And here's a moment of truth. We'll be talking about Pat Tillman. He was a former Arizona Cardinal player, and the reason we'll be talking about him, and it'll be a special of Veterans Day because he actually left. Maybe many of you know his story, many probably don't. And if you don't, and if you do, you should still tune into this. You know, you might learn more. You might know, you might find out something that you didn't know, or something you just don't know at all. And this will be a good story for you. And and if you guys are parents or a kid, you can show it to your parents or you can show it to your children. But yeah, we'll be talking about Pat Tillman. For those of you who don't really know him, I'll kind of summarize it up for you right now. He was a he was a safety for the Cardinals, and he actually ended up leaving. He turned down a contract, a 30 some $1 million contract to join the army, and then he ended up dying in Afghanistan. And I'll talk more about it throughout the video. I just wanted to summarize it shortly for the people who don't know who he is. And the Cardinals will be wearing his number today, uh, this week, in remembrance of him. The There's actually a documentary on him. It's something the NFL does. It's called A Football Life, and they did it on him. The NFL does it, and ended up doing it on him on his birthday. This past Sunday. He was gonna turn 40. The number he used to wear as a Cardinal. And then on our Pat Tillman, the Cardinals are gonna wear the number 40 this week because he's an inspiration on people all across the world. Um, so let's get into this. His great grandfather was also in the army. He fought in Pearl Harbor. A number of his family members fought in the army, and he had a great he had a great respect for all veterans, not just them. And he did it. He felt like he hasn't done anything just to play in the NFL. He felt like it wasn't he had done anything. And he he was born in 1976 and he ended up dying in 2004, unfortunately, again to the incident in Afghanistan. And he died as an American patriot. That's what a true American patriot is. Many people think, hey, um, let's lift up a flag, and I'm not American patriot, but he put his life on the line after having it all. Playing football, he was living the time of his life, and just to do that, that shows what a true American patriot is. He gained some fame for playing football. He he left. He ended up leaving, like I said, the NFL to join the army. He was killed in Afghanistan. He showed a great passion for everything. Everything he did, he showed a great passion for. Whether he liked it or not, he showed it. Like he was dedicated. And he had a great heart. He had a big heart. He wasn't impressed with joining the NFL. He knew what he could accomplish. He knew what he did, and he knew he was capable of it. So he wasn't impressed. Um, Money didn't motivate him. Um, what really did motivate him was that he was that he knew he could do better, and that there's still things that he hadn't done, that still things that he had to achieve, and knowing that's what motivated him. That's what kept him going. That's what saying, I'm not done yet. I could keep going. I could keep doing better. That's what motivated him. That's one of the greatest characteristics that like no matter how much money he was motivated by, it was knowing that he could do better. He had a lot of great characteristics. We'll be talking about them throughout the video, and I'll just explain how much of a great person he was. He ended up he was a top high school prospect. Well, coming out of eighth grade, he was a top eighth grade prospect basically for the high school as a baseball player, and and he tried out for the varsity team, but the he didn't make the varsity team, so he quit baseball. He ended up quitting baseball to just because he didn't make varsity because he wanted to be the best, and he quit, and then he dedicated himself to join to go to the weight room and try hard enough to play football, Division 1 football, and and he was only 5'4", and he wasn't in great football shape. He was like a really skinny guy, more like me. Let's forget about that. But yeah, and people told him to stick to baseball, but that just motivated him even more. Like, hey, these people don't think I can do it, but I want to. This is what I'm dedicated to now. I'll show these people. And he just did it. Like I said, it's what motivated him, knowing that he could do better, knowing that he could do this. And his sophomore year, he ended up joining the varsity football team. And seniors, they went after him. They tried to punk on him. And Pat, he didn't back down. He kept pushing and he fought back. And he was a man among boys. He was, and it was funny about that. He was one of the youngest players on the team. And as a senior, as starting his senior year, he was only 16 years old. That's how old I am now. And I'm a junior. Well, I turned 16 my sophomore year, and physically and mentally, he wasn't 16. Like people said, he was way ahead of his years as physically and mentally. He was a standout high school student and a standout high school football player, and he made great plays for his team. He the the better he got, they said, the more humble he got. One of I think one of the high school coaches said that, and and he would never take full credit for the game. Sometimes he'd never take credit at all. He would keep pushing forward and he'd say, people would ask him like, there was an interview once that right after the game, they were like, "Hey, what did you think about your game? How's your performance?" He was like, "I, I no, my team played great. I'm just here to contribute, and I took great. It's again another one of his great characteristics. So it's something you're supposed to look up to, man. Like Pat Tillman, he was a great hero, great model, role model, and it touches me to the heart. It's one of my greatest heroes, and he's just a great person overall. He was, basically. And he ended up wanting to play football for Stanford, and Bill Walsh, the coach for Stanford, said he wasn't big enough or fast enough. But then his high school coach tried to convince him. It just didn't work out. And then, so he gave up on Stanford, and he said, and ASU had like offered like 25 scholarships to this guy who was only five, who when he started football or dedicated himself to football was only 5'4", wasn't even in shape for football, and he had 25 scholarships for Arizona State University. That's gotta be inspiring. Just that itself is already inspiring. And like I said, he kept pushing forward no matter what. So he finally accepted the last one because he had turned all of them down trying to get to Stanford. Obviously, it didn't work out. So he finally accepted the last of the 25 not contracts. That's NFL scholarships. He told Bruce Snyder, the coach for Arizona State University, that he was going to be there for 4 years and then he's gone. He had already had a plan, and he's always planning ahead. Always, he always has his plans. He's always ready. He's ready for anything. Like that's also one of his great characteristics. Again, characteristics. This man is a great. He was a great everything basically. He spent 2 seasons as a special teams standout. He was a great, like, many of you who know Patrick Tillman knew he was a hard hitter. He's a he's a hard nosed football player, and he just laid hits, which made him stand out in the special team. And and then he ended up starting as a linebacker for one of the greatest schools in history. And and like I said before, from 5'4" to skinny, and now starting for one of the greatest players for one of the greatest schools as a linebacker. As a linebacker, and a linebacker is supposed to be big and all, and next thing you know, 5'4", skinny, and now he's starting as a linebacker in Arizona State University. He changed the game. Um, he did the 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 assistant coach. His name was Joe Green. I'm pretty sure many of you know him. He played in the NFL too. People call him Mean Joe Green. He played in the well. He coached Arizona State, and he was the assistant coach for ASU at the moment. And he said that Pat sometimes he would destroy offenses, sometimes even single handedly. And he played in Arizona with quarterback Jake Plummer, who ended up playing with later and in pro football with the Arizona Cardinals. Um, his first year starting, he played against Nebraska, and coming off a 77-28 loss to them a year ago, um, they ended up playing them. They shut them out the year after, and Pat Tillman was a big part of that. That was the last play. It was a meaningless play basically. One of the top running backs was running towards the end zone. He ended up fumbling, and Pat Tillman picks it up. He's a shows one of his outstanding how much of an outstanding player he is. He finished the season. They finished the season undefeated, but they fell short of the championship of the national championship, losing to Ohio State. He but that didn't stop him. He ended up graduating. It only took him 3.5 years to graduate, and he ended up with a 3.84 GPA, which is outstanding. It's amazing. Like like you, you look up to these people. He never chased after girls either. He was dedicated to one girl and his studies, and that showed another one of his great characteristics. He was a loyal person, dedicated, and it's just a great thing. And he was one of the top defensive players for out of all college. But there were still more questions than there were what am I looking for? Than there were answers, and for pro football, because he was an undersized linebacker, and in football and pro is no joke. So it it took a big risk for him, and he knew that he had a slim chance of getting drafted in the NFL. He ended up being like the 244th, 246, something like that, draft pick in for from Arizona, and that was the seventh round. And he acted like it was the first round draft pick because he was so excited to play for Arizona, and that's his agent had said that. And his agent Frank told him he had called him, and he said, "All right, you're playing for Arizona. Try to start on special teams, and I'll guarantee you'll be a captain." And knowing Patrick Tillman, he was like, "F that." He actually said the actual word, but I don't want to say it here. But he was like, "F that. I I'm going to start in eight games. Watch, and and they'll make you proud." And then he went out, and he was trying out. He played with Jake Plummer, like I said. He pissed off a lot of people in practice because he was just a hard nosed football player. He laid people out, and his mentality to just play all out in practice, no matter what, actually got him to start on opening day. He said he would start in 8 games. Started on the first one. 5'4", skinny player. I keep bringing this up. He he shocked the world basically. He was a smart player, but one of his greatest attributes was toughness. He was tough. Like I said, hard nosed. He always fired up. He was always fired up. Led AZ to Arizona to one of the greatest one of the greatest champs. They didn't make it to the champs. One of the greatest seasons. They won the first playoff game and they lost the next one. And and he was a fan favorite. The crowd loved him. When 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 Patrick Tillman made a play, like it sounded like the crowd was doubled. That they had a hard time filling up the crowd at the time. But when you hear Pat Tillman's name, you just the whole crowd sounds doubled. He was one of the most known Cardinals, along with Jake Plummer. Like I said, he was a Jake Plummer was a quarterback, and he played with him in ASU, Arizona State University. And the NFL never changed him. When people asked him what he worked as, he said he just worked in Arizona, like nothing. Like if it was just a natural job, he never said that he played football or anything. He just said, "I work in Arizona." He like I said, he was a true patriot. So he said that when he would be standing listening to the national anthem, that would really pump him up, and keep and like and he was at his highest point at that point. And he said he had a patriotic bone, so it just really fired him up, and he just let loose. And he had a breakout season in 2000. He made Sports Illustrated a All Pro team, which is amazing. 5'4", skinny, to an All Pro team for Sports Illustrated in the NFL. He he broke the record for most tackles with 224 tackles, and it still stands. I'm telling you, man, he was just an amazing player. He he was offered $9 million to play with the Rams, and he turned it down because he even though he was gonna play with Arizona with the minimum league with the minimum league, what's it called, contract at 512K, which and which is which is surprising. You would obviously take a $9 million offer over a 512K offer, and he turned it down. He said that he wanted to stay with Arizona because they're the only team that took a chance on him when nobody else would, and to leave just for money, he said was BS. So again, another major characteristic, not money and loyalty, basically. And he he wanted to run a marathon, and he asked one of the trainers over there at Arizona. He would train him to run a marathon. He said no because it takes a whole nother training, and and it'll affect you the way you play football. And he's like, I'm gonna run it no matter what. So he trained on his own. He ran the marathon in Europe, and he did it. And and it was just another thing on his checklist. He checked it out, and he was done. And he was he was deeply affected by the 9/11 incident. He they there was a vote later on that week to play, and most everybody, they say there was 55 players, and 54 voted not to play, but Pat Tillman was the only one who voted to play, and he said he wanted to play for progress, and he wasn't gonna let most of these terrorists ju- uh, dictate his life. So he kept doing it, and he was later given a contract extension for $36 million. $36 million for 3 years. He declined it, and next thing you know, he was a new recruit for the army. And he said he wanted to join the army before he was too old. So he just wanted to. He always wanted to be in the army, no matter what, because he he knew his family and had all done, and he hasn't done anything. Teammates asked why he did it, but he just went out and did it. He never really gave an answer. He refused to talk to the media. And there was a lady from the Pentagon who said that they didn't want him to get injured or and they wanted to take him out of harm's way. So they called his agent Frank, to convince him to to not go, and nobody was able to tell him to get out of it because he's just dedicated. Like he's done it before with the baseball, leaving baseball and joining football. Nobody was able to tell him to stop, so he just kept doing it. He knew that there are people who are risking their lives out there every day, and he's out there just playing football. So he wanted to make a difference by playing, well, not playing, by joining the army and doing something. His first time in Iraq, he he had then come back, and then I think his agent called him and asked him how he felt, and he said it was okay, he did his thing. And he said that he honestly didn't want to didn't want to go out again. But then his agent asked why are you doing it? He's like, I made a commitment, and I will stick with it. Again, breaking up his good characteristics. He's committed. Once he's committed, he'll stay with it. Stick with it. He said there was a loop supposedly to get him out early, and he thought about it, but he he wasn't sure. Then he ended up calling his agent later, that he he wanted to come back to play football. He said he would take one more tour to with the army, and then that he would come back, and he wanted to know if his agent would represent him, and his agent said of course. So I suppose that was the last time he talked to him. He went out. He was deployed with his brother Kevin Tillman to Afghanistan in April 2004 with the what's it called, with the Army Rangers. His his wife was working that day, and and they two officers from the army came to her door, and they knocked on it, and she had already knew what it was from what the uniform they were looking, and they just came to inform her the the news, and her husband was dead. Had Tillman had died. Nobody expected team. Nobody expected it. Teammates, family, friends. The the world was shocked. People saw him as a hero, like as a superhero, because he basically he'd done not everything, but he he had done things most people couldn't do, and to just hear him die, it was one of the saddest days in Arizona. Everybody in the community felt like they knew him, and it was a devastating loss to the whole community, to the nation, knowing that all he done was it was just lost. It hits me now reading and knowing about it. It makes me think, like, what am I doing? Like, it's just it's just an inspirational story. Um, the they had later come out with the story that his unit was ambushed, and Pat had went up to try and go save him, and and that he was shot by a sniper and he died, but it was a lie, and they tried to cover it up. But then it was the real reason was leaked, that Pat had died uh, through friendly fire, and that had hurt even more. That the government was trying to hide it, but then they just set it aside, and it, to die through friendly fire just hurts a lot. Like any death is sad, but then you find out that it's friendly fire and that the government was keeping it from you. It just hurt. And then his wife had actually read a note for from Pat Tillman that told her to just live, to just keep living, and to somehow live without him, just to keep living if he died. And she took the advice, and 7.5 years later, she was remarried, and she named one of her children after Pat. Well, his middle name was Patrick, and and she 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 said that Pat Tillman was a big part of her life, so she brought it into the family. Um, the there were a lot of checks being sent to the Arizona Cardinals for Pat Tillman after his death, and and the family didn't know what to do with the money. They were kind of angry and confused at first, but then then they they decided to come together and they started a foundation. It was a scholarship program to veterans who go out there and risk their lives for the country. And most of the veterans who get the scholarship, so far there has been $14 million offered to all these veterans for the scholarship, and they they feel they feel grateful to be able to live on his legacy. And every year, people all over the nation used to go to Arizona. I think it was Tempe, Arizona, to run a 4.2 mile, a 4.2 run, which is miles, a 4.2 mile run, my bad, for the man Pat Tillman, who wore 42 in Arizona State University. He he influenced many people around the world, like I said, and he was just a great influence. Many people wanted to run, but they couldn't exactly go to Arizona, so so they decided to start moving the foundation all around the nation, and they started going to places like San Francisco to run the mile, and they went to New York to run the mile, etc. And and Jay Plummer has said it's great to to see to see the run work, but it just sucks that Tillman isn't here, and it I feel it too. Like he is missed. He is dearly missed. Never even. I was alive at the time, but I wasn't old enough to know who he was. But I like I don't know what it is, but I feel his presence, and it's just a great inspiration. And he will be deeply missed. He he was very, how can I say, he wanted to be remembered as passionate, and and he was passionate about everything he did, joining the army, and it just shows how much of a great man he was. His legend lives on, and Tillman was a true American hero. He inspires many people still today, and his legend will always live on. He will always inspire people. I really want to for you guys to reach out and actually go and check the actual documentary. They they might explain it a little better, but I just want you to go check it out. It's a really great documentary. You guys will really like it. I want you guys to, you guys are parents, show to your kids. You guys are kids, show to your parents or friends, family. Just spread this video all around. Share, please, and leave a like below or comment what you think. If there's anything else you want to know, I'll let you know. But just keep in remembrance that to never give up on anything, because there are people out there giving their lives, giving up contracts to join the army. Pat Tillman, he was a great man, and he should always be remembered. And hopefully, you guys keep having a great Veterans Day, and keep in memory of all the veterans who died here throughout all of time. Just give us some thought. And hopefully, you guys like this video, and hopefully, you guys really were inspired by this, and hopefully you guys see a purpose in life now. If those of you guys who struggle, hopefully this inspired you. And I want all you guys to set goals for yourself. Just keep moving forward and to never give up on anything because you never know what life may give you. Just be passionate about life. And yeah. To all you veterans out there, I thank you deeply, and to everybody else out there, keep these veterans in your mind. Keep Tillman in your mind. Please watch the actual documentary. I'll put the link down below in the description. And let's take a moment to give respect to these veterans. I thank you guys. Rich is out.